friends, so we're here with the fun with sounds. Let's go ahead and see what we need today. Well, we're going to go ahead and get out my book of sounds for reading, and we're going to pick up lesson 1 of the big ideas. So where do I find that? I find it right here in the front. Okay, right here in the front of this. Okay, so let's go ahead and we will go ahead and do a review of this book, my book of sounds for reading, and just take a look at what we have done so far and make sure that we are up to date. So last week what we did is we looked at the long A patterns, A, and that was on page 24. So let's go ahead and find page 24. Oh, and we did not complete this together? Well, that was an oversight of mine, which I'm not surprised by, really. Let's go ahead and take some time to do that because we didn't complete that last week. So we forgot to finish these 3. They're the least common ways of making the long A sound. And I'll send over a chart where you can see some example words with these 3 patterns, okay? So one is sometimes an A all by itself will say A, like an acorn or April. And April was our example word, the month of April. April, okay? And then the other example, or the other patterns, are EI, which says A, as in the word vain. And there are very few words, common words in English, that have that pattern. Very few, actually, like reindeer. I'll have to think of a few more, but very few do have that EI that says A. And then the last pattern would be the EY that says pray, like an animal that is being hunted down, the opposite of a predator, the prey. Now, why don't we, because these are all long A sounds, right? Long vowel sounds. What color should they be? What color should they be? Okay, long vowels should be yellow. And I'd like you not to use a marker in this book. Either use a crayon or use a colored pencil, okay? So go ahead, and what I want you to do is color in all of the circles. They're long A, and you can practice saying them. EY says A, as in pray. EI says A, as in vain. A by itself sometimes says A, as in April. And now we're getting into the more common ones. A with a silent E at the end will sometimes say A. A very common pattern. We have it in our phonics book. We're going to see it a lot in our reading. AI will say A. That is a very common sound pattern in English. AI says A, as in pain. EIGH says A, as in 8. Not as common. And the one that we see an awful lot of, AY says A, as in play. So go ahead and color these in. You can take your time. No markers, please. Crayons or colored pencils work really well here. And then you can color this in. So these are the long A letter patterns. Okay, letter patterns that only say the name A. Okay, great. Now that we have looked at this, let's go ahead and why don't we make a chart while we're thinking about this, okay? For the 3 patterns that we did not cover last week. So get a white piece of paper out and let's just give you some example words that have the EY that says A. Okay, EY, underline it. Let's write a little list for you. So EY says A as in the word gray. And prey, which we already talked about, the opposite of a predator is the prey, the animal that that the predator will eat. Obey, I hope that you obey your mom, obey, and your dad, obey. And you might see this word on the rainbow and in your reading, they. So those are some common words that have the A sound. Notice how it's normally at the end of a word. I'm drawing a blank on it ever being in the middle of a word, so I would have to look that up and think about it. So usually at the end. And then we have the EI pattern. What does it say? A, right? It's going to be found in the middle of a word. And there are very few common words in English that have the EI pattern. One is vain. 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 Another is veil, like a wedding veil. A bride would wear a veil. And then the last one that I think you might be familiar with that would be common would be reindeer. Rain, deer. Reindeer. Great. And then the other pattern we wanted to talk about was, well, what are some example words where the A is all by itself, it's not working with a vowel, but it is a multi-syllable word where it stands alone and it still says its own name, A. So here are a few examples. Acorn. Acorn, acorn, like what a squirrel would eat. Apron, apron, something your dad or your mom might wear, an apron when they're cooking. Baby. And another example that is common would be table. Table. Okay? So here are 4 word examples where the A is standing by itself in its own syllable and it says its own name, A. Okay? So you can practice these words. EY says A as in gray, pray, obey, they. EI says A as in vain, veil, reindeer. A on its own can sometimes say A as in acorn, apron, baby, table, table. Notice how they're all two-syllable words. Okay, so I'm serious about doing a complete review every time we look at this book. I want this book to be like you open it up, you take it to anyone in your house, and you're so used to me going through it with you that you can go and you can walk around your house, take it to your grandmother's house, and you can like teach her about the words. Okay, so you're going to get really tired of me every day going through this book, but I think routine and being really consistent is the way we're going to learn this, okay? My book of Sounds for Reading by Sophia, or your name, okay? So the key is simple. The key is here. If we have a short vowel pattern, we're going to shade it in green. Long vowels that say A, E, I, O, U, their own name, we'll shade it in yellow. And any irregular sound that does not fit the short or the long vowel rule will be colored in orange. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at what we have done so far. So far, we have worked with the 3 sounds of A on page 1. So let's go to page 1. Now, this means anytime I see the letter A, and it doesn't have to be the fancy A, right? Anytime I see a letter A, there are 3 possible sounds that A could make. So sometimes when you get to a word that you have never seen before, you might have to test it out and see which one of these possible A sounds might work in that unknown word. So it's kind of like you are a detective here. But let's go ahead, and we really want to memorize these. So A can say ah, the short A sound, ah, as in apple. A can say A, the long A sound, as in April. A can say ah, the irregular sound, as in want. Want, want. Okay, so short sound ah, long sound A, irregular sound ah. Ah, a, ah. Ah, a, ah. Okay, so really just kind of like ingrain that in your brain, plug your brain in, keep saying those sounds, and we'll be back in a moment to work on lesson 1 of the big ideas.